and beat him so bad that he died 4 days later from massive head injuries. And the evidence will prove that Vincent Chin died at the hands of these men, these defendants, because he was a Chinese American and because he was enjoying the entertainment of a public bar. The evidence will show that this fatal assault was preceded an hour or so earlier by a confrontation at that bar between Vincent Chen and the defendants. The confrontation was caused by Ronald Evans' barrage of obscenities, baiting and racial insults directed at Vincent Chin. What happened in Highland Park that night was a story of ugly racism which turned violent.
Now, the burden is on the government to prove not only that Ronald Evans and Michael Nitz were responsible for the death of Vincent Chen, but to show that they killed Vincent Chen because of his race, and with the intent to deny his rights to use the Fancy Pants Lounge. Now, we do not believe that the evidence will show beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Evans acted because of Mr. Chen's race. We believe the evidence will show that this was not a civil rights case, but a fight between two angry, intoxicated men that ended in the death in one of them.
Lawson gave Evans's version of the altercation. He also attacked the government's witnesses and suggested that the issue of race was a fabrication.
The witnesses will tell you that Mr. Evans was in an outrage. He began swinging the bat at Mr. Vincent Chin. The bat struck Mr. Chin several times, including the head, the neck, and other parts of his body. Mr. Chin fell in the street with a mortar wound to his head, and he died 4 days later. As a result, Mr. Evans was charged with murder. He pled guilty in the Wayne County Circuit Court to manslaughter. Then something happened. Something happened in that court on March 16, 1983, which set off a chain of events that resulted in the trial today. And that Mr. Evans got only probation for killing Mr. Chin. Naturally, such a sentence in such a case upset the community and enraged Mr. Chin's families and friends, and also the members of the Asian American community. However, you will hear evidence that after the sentence of probation, Mr. Chin's friends and others met and tried to come up with some evidence to turn this homicide into a federal matter. We expect that the government will try everything to inject some evidence of racial slaying or racial acts into this case. But because of the massive publicity in this case, because of the influence placed on the witnesses, because of the strong beliefs held by some members of the community that there was evidence of support, to support the government's charges, we expect that the testimony of witnesses will be distorted and changed to support the government's charges.
One of the most important witnesses was Racine Caldwell, one of the dancers at the Fancy Pants Lounge. As one of the jurors revealed in a post-trial interview, Caldwell was seen as a neutral witness who had no reason to lie. Her testimony was critical on the issue of motivation.
Where are you employed, Miss Caldwell?
Fancy Pants?
Now, Miss Caldwell, let me ask you to direct your attention to the night of June 19th, 1982. Were you working at the Fancy Pants Lounge that night?
Yes, I was.
And did you see Vincent Chin in the Fancy Pants that night?
That evening, yes.
And what was his mood when you saw him?
He was laughing and joking.
Now, did you dance that night?
Yes, I did.
And did you see Vincent and his friends while you were dancing?
Yes, I did.
And how was Vincent acting while you were up on stage?
Happy and laughing.
Now, what did you do after you finished dancing?
I got off stage and went back to freshen up in the dressing room. Then I came back out to talk to the customers.
And did anything happen while you were out there talking to the customers?
Yes. I came close to a couple of people that was loud talking, like arguing. And I turned around and I seen Vincent and a couple of people arguing.
And do you see the man in the courtroom today that you saw arguing with Vincent Chin?
Yes.
And can you point him out if you can?
He has on the blue suit and red tie and white shirt.
And did you hear the defendant, and what did you hear the defendant, Mr. Evans, say?
All I heard him say when I turned around is, "It's because of you little motherfuckers that we're out of work."
And after you heard that, what else did you hear?
Vincent came back with a remark like, "I'm not a little motherfucker." And then it was stated to him, "Well, I'm not sure if you're a big one or a little one." And by that time, he got mad.
And who said that to Vincent?
That gentleman over there.
Did you hear Vincent make any comments directed at the defendant, Mr. Evans?
No, other than, "I'm not a little motherfucker."
Did he ever call the defendant anything?
Not that I heard, no.
In what tone of voice was the defendant talking to Vincent?
A loud tone of voice.
And what happened next?
He pushed him on the shoulder, you know, kind of hard, and pushed him. And then they got into the fight, and the younger fellow jumped into it and started helping him.
And who is that?
That's the gentleman that started helping the older man when he started hitting Vince.
And did you subsequently learn his name?
Yes, Michael Nix.
David Lawson cross-examined for Mr. Evans.
Miss Caldwell, Mr. Evans was speaking in a loud tone of voice, right?
Yeah, like an argument, like if I was arguing with somebody.
In fact, he was shouting, right?
Yes, I could hear him over the music.
And when he was shouting, you heard him shout, right?
Yeah.
And then Vincent Chin responded, right?
Right, so first I heard Evans, the defendant, shout, "Because of you little motherfuckers, we are out of work." And then Vincent said, "Well, I am not a little motherfucker."
Now, when you were making the rounds and talking to customers, is that part of the business also?
Yes.
And were you soliciting customers?
No, I was not.
No, you were asking them if they wanted lap dance, right?
No.
No, Vincent was a friend of yours, wasn't he?
A customer, not a personal friend, no.
And you liked him, don't you?
Yes.
And you'd like to see him again, right?
Yes.
Another important witness was Jimmy Choi, who was with Vincent and two other friends, and was celebrating with Vincent that night. On direct examination, Choi described the events leading up to the bachelor party, and then testified about the encounter with Evans and Nitz.
How loud was the music on the stage?
It wasn't blasting like, but it was just normal.
So you could carry on a conversation with the person next to you?
Yeah, Gary.
What about the people who were across the stage from you? Could you hear what they were saying in the conversation?
No, I didn't pay much attention at first. Then after a while, I heard a few things.
What did you hear, and where did you hear it come from?
I was in the bar for about 15, 20 minutes. Then I heard someone mention foreign cars or something from across the stage. I didn't pay too much attention.
Did you hear anything else coming from that side of the stage?
Well, then I heard Vincent saying something first, okay? He was talking across the stage.
And did you hear any other statements from the men, again, across the stage?
Yes, I heard the word nips calling toward our direction, and I recalled Vincent saying that we aren't Japanese.
So, that's what you referred to when you understood them to mean?
I understood it to be, slang for Japanese.
Okay. Now, when you looked over and you saw, well, did you see who was making these statements?
Yes,
And do you see that individual in the courtroom here today?
yes,
Can you point him out?
yes,
May the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Ronald Evans.
Yes.
Now, when you looked over, was he looking over on your side of the table when he said that word, nips?
yes, across in our direction.
Now, did there come a time when you heard some more words exchanged across the table?
Yes, I heard Vincent say in a loud voice, "Don't call me a motherfucker, I'm not a motherfucker."
And then what?
Well, then I heard the gentleman say, "Big fucker, little fucker, we're all fuckers."
What happened after he made that statement?
Well, Vincent kept on saying, "Don't call me a motherfucker." Then he got mad and said, "Come on, let's go outside."
And what did Vincent do next?
Well, he came around the stage and went over to where the two gentlemen were sitting. The man with the gray hair stood, and Vincent punched him.
And then what happened next?
And then they started exchanging blows.
Choi continued to describe the scuffling in the bar, and then he moved on to what happened outside.
And what did they do?
I just went out to the car, lifted up the hatchback, and pulled out a baseball bat.
Did you see which one got the baseball bat?
The man there.
The man you identified as Mr. Evans?
Yes.
And what did he do when he got out that baseball bat?
Well, he started in not a run, something like a trot, holding the bat like this. And Vincent said, "I'm not going to fight you with a baseball bat." Then they kept on coming, so Vincent ran away from them.
And did they pursue Vincent?
Yes, they did.
Choi explained that Evans and Nitz were unable to catch Chen. They returned and asked the other two members of the group, Gary Koivu and Bob Zorowski, "Where is your friend?" Choi testified that when Evans and Nitz saw him, they said, "Let's get this little fucker." At that point, Choi ran away as well. He eventually found Vincent, and the two stopped at a parking lot in front of the McDonald's. We continue with Choi's direct testimony.
Then what happened?
Well, we were still sitting. Then all of a sudden I heard Vince say, "Scram." I turned around and I saw the two men right behind us, 3 to 5 steps.
And what did you do?
Well, I scrammed. I ran towards north of McDonald's right off the bat.
And how far did you run?
30 yards, then I turned back.
And when you turned back, what did you see?
I saw Vincent running across, just about getting to the median of the cars. Then the younger man came up and tried to grab him from behind, pull him around. Then they were scuffling, and the older man came with the bat.
And what did you see when he approached Vincent with the bat?
Well, he approached. Vincent was still trying to get away from him, and then the older man, he couldn't run too fast. He kind of hobbled. He took a swing at Vincent's knees.
And what happened next?
Well, at that point, on the knees, one swing, upper section on Vincent, and then he blocked like this.
And then what happened? What did you see Vincent doing?
Well, he was going down slowly, like this, and the old man took a swing right at his head.
When you saw that, what did you do?
I don't know. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was going, I can't believe it.
What else did you see?
It seemed like slow motion. Vincent was going down, then I saw another blow, and then he was kind of in a crawling position, like this. And then it was in a frenzy, like while he was swinging, he was saying something which I couldn't hear. He kept mumbling.
How many times did you see him, the defendant, swing the bat?
The first blow, I saw it very vividly.
Where did that blow land?
Right here.
And after that?
Well, one more blow to the head while Vincent was going down. And he kept swinging. And I don't know whether it was connecting or not, but I couldn't believe it.
What did you do?
Well, I ran back. I just ran toward the direction right to Vincent.
And what did you see when you got there?
All of a sudden, I saw guns, service guns, and then I stopped abruptly and I saw a black man holding the gun. He pulled out a badge like that and told the older man to drop the bat.
Now, when you went over to Vincent, was he conscious?
He was still conscious.
Was he saying anything?
Yeah, I cradled his head and I said, "Hey, Vincent, are you all right?" And he was saying, "Fight, fight, it's not fair."
Was he speaking Chinese?
In Chinese.
And did you say anything to the defendants?
Yes, I saw them talking to the police officers, saying something like, "I didn't mean to hurt this boy." And he said, "My son is hurt." I was totally outraged. I said, "If I had a gun, I would shoot you both right here."
One of the defense counsel's principal themes of cross-examination was that Choi had been unduly influenced by others. Choi and other witnesses had met as a group before trial with Liza Chan, the attorney who helped form American Citizens for Justice. Chan met with the witnesses and prepared them for their testimony. The meetings were recorded and the recordings were transcribed. Defense counsel wanted to introduce the recordings into evidence to show that the witnesses colluded to come up with the evidence and that race was a motivating factor. The government objected to the tapes as hearsay. Judge Taylor sustained the objection, although she permitted defense counsel to confront the witness